Welcome. I'm Perry Williams with Hamilton County Newsmakers. Today I have as my guest Jack Russell, who is the Westfield Chamber of Commerce Marketing Director. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
A couple things, Jack. Well, we're going to break this in two segments. First of all, we're going to talk about some of the things going on at the Westfield Chamber and in Westfield, because you guys are doing a lot of things over there with Grand Park and with Grand Junction being talked about now. There's a lot of activities going on in Westfield, and in fact, looking down through your list here of some of the ribbon cuttings and all that kind of stuff, that's like a taking it to the next level. You have to have a scorecard and everything for it. And then the second segment, Jack and I spent several hours last night at the Hamilton County Judicial Center following the election. So we'll talk about the Hamilton County election that we just finished up here. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about the Westfield Chamber and some of the things that are going on. I know May 5th you have Westfield Young Professionals May after hours.
Yes, it's going to be at Park Street Pub, 5:30 to 7:30. And what we have started in the chamber is, as we're growing, we want to grow our young professionals. And we have a committee that I sit on that we wanted to start with one event every quarter, and it got so popular that we're doing once a month. And so at the Park Street Pub, 5:30 to 7:30, and when we get there, mostly just meeting people and talking. Usually about 35 young professionals every time we go, but we have probably 80 total.
That's a pretty good turnout. 35.
Oh yeah.
Jack, talk a little bit about Park Street Pub, because that's kind of a new restaurant over there, and talk about the proximity is very interesting right now, because it'll be part of Grand Junction. So
exactly. So Park Street Pub is really on Union, but it's real closer to 32. It was kind of closed and reopened in the last couple of years, and so us as a young professionals group really want to support a local business and help them grow. And with the Mill Street extension for Grand Junction slowly getting ready to happen, we decided we're at least going to do 4 events this year at Park Street Pub to continue to help grow and support them. But a great guy. We had our last event there. We went to Tim's shooting range, and then afterwards went to Park Street Pub, and he was just thrilled. I mean, he was like, "Can we get you a ride home? Can we take care of you?" So that's our new.
It's probably best that you went to
the
shooting range first and then the pub,
rather
than
the pub. We planned that out ahead of time, so that was good.
Another event coming up that I've attended several of these, and the All County Networking Breakfast, which is on May the 12th.
Yeah.
That's kind of I call it, it's sort of like speed dating on steroids, right? Only you're talking about meeting new people. And it is a tremendous way to meet new people.
Oh, absolutely. That's what we try to push for our anyone that's a part of the chamber. That's our big event, to connect people with people.
And the great thing about it, that's an all-county event, too.
Exactly. So it expands from, if you have a Westfield membership, you're able to meet people in Fishers and Noblesville and Cicero. So it's definitely one of our largest networking events.
Yeah, and then a big event coming up here May 14th, and I know you're very familiar with that, and it's Rock the Junction Craft Beer and Music Festival.
Yeah, that's it. So John Knight owns Grand Junction Brewery right there on Union, and he's working with Indiana on Tap, is the kind of the statewide initiative there. And what they're doing is, and I have some information here, it's a craft beer and a music festival. Starts at 1 p.m. It's going to be located where the Grand Junction is going to be, right there on 32 Union and Park Street. And it's $35 a ticket and $50 VIP ticket. But it's going to be a really big event. We've got a lot of people coming so far.
The one thing about it is, whether it's good or whether it's bad, I happen to think it's good. The craft beer market in the state of Indiana, along with the the wineries have just
yeah.
exploded in Indiana
Yeah.
and become a very great source for business. I
Well,
mean,
in Westfield, I mean, you look at Grand Junction. We have Urban Farmers that just is getting ready in 2017, going to open up a winery. So, like you said, it's just craft beers and new wines that are coming out. It's growing
and
like crazy.
with our state legislators passing a law last year on upping the amount of beer that they can produce.
Yes.
To 90,000 gallons. People like Sun King and some of the other ones around the state of Indiana have able to blossom out, and which helped us here in Hamilton County a lot because they opened up a facility in Fisher. So
Right, and I think you'll see it grow even more with that new legislation. I think you'll see Grand Junction even grow even more, along with Sun King there in Fishers.
because it's definitely a lifestyle now, especially for the young people and the millenniums and everything. So I'm sure that's going to be a great event. Now, that event also took place last year too. Didn't you have it last year?
We did not have it last year, but I know that I know that Grand Junction was.
Yeah. Okay. All right, and then you have May 19th. You have the May Chamber Luncheon. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's going to be with Derek Daly. We're excited since May is kind of racing month. We decided that what's better way than to see Derek Daly and listen to him. And a lot of people, it's getting filled by the minute for people to come. So people are still welcome. It's going to be sponsored by Comcast Business. And everyone's welcome to get on our chamber website. And there's still tickets available. It's going to be at Woodwind Golf Course. It should be a great time, especially in May with racing being around and the 100th running. It should be a great time.
Absolutely. And one thing we'll jump here and into June a little bit, because I know that one of the big fundraisers that you have each year is the Westfield Chamber Classic golf outing.
Yes, and that's going to be June 6th at 10:30 a.m. And like you said, it's our biggest event of the year. Our sponsorships, I started working on those about 2 months ago, and people were saying, people were saying, I want to be at this, I want to be at that. When does the foursome start? So it's going to be at the Bridgewater. They're in Westfield, even though it says Carmel sometimes. But it's going to be definitely our biggest event of the year, our biggest fundraiser. And it being our fundraiser, kind of people wonder, well, what is a fundraiser for the chamber? It's we're advocates for businesses, and we want to continue that in Westfield as we grow. We want to do that for the chamber.
Another thing, Jack, is there a dinner with that, or is that just a golf outing, or how does that work?
Yeah, so for a foursome, it's $1,100, but you can go to dinner for $50. We have a reception as well.
Is that before or after?
It's going to be after, so in the evening you can go to dinner. For $50, you go to the reception, which is our 19th hole reception, and then dinner as well is included. And if somebody doesn't want to golf or be out there, they can still go to the dinner for $50.
Sounds like a great deal.
Yeah.
One thing about it too, Jack, mention to people, maybe give a phone number who to get a hold of or anything if they want to be a sponsor, because you'll still take sponsors right now, right? Or
actually, we are full with sponsors.
Oh, okay, great. That's a great thing to have.
Good thing to have. But I always encourage people. Obviously we filled up in 2 or 3 weeks. We got all our sponsors filled up, and so I always encourage people in new businesses, if they want to get a part of the Westfield Chamber and they are interested in the golf outing, to just get a hold of me, and we can make sure that they're on the sponsor list for next year.
Now, are there still openings for foursomes?
Yes, absolutely. They are $1,100 for a foursome, and I think we right now have, our goal is 27, and I think we've got 12 now signed up. So we've still got some of that available.
Okay, and the dinner?
And the dinner is we've got plenty of room.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, that sounds like a great event. You still got an opportunity here to get a foursome in that golf outing over there to support the Westfield Chamber. Did you give that phone number or how they can, or is it online that they can?
They can go online to our website, so it's right there at the bottom of the screen. And what they can do is they just click right there. There's a button that says golf outing, and then when you click that, it says register, and you can sign up right there and use a card if you'd like.
Sounds good. Anything we should know about here in the next month or so going on at Grand Junction?
Well,
Grand Park.
Grand Park, the big one is in July. So the big event is that they're getting ready to open up the Grand Park Event Center. It's going to be July 21st through the 23rd. I've got family-friendly activities, music, entertainment, and a Grand Park 5K run walk. That'll be on Saturday. Indiana Memorial Cup will be June 4th and 5th, which is a big soccer tournament that's going to be out there. And then June 11th is the Westfield Grand Park time capsule.
Oh, okay.
So they're going to be putting that there. And but the big one is definitely going to be that event center, being able to go in there and see it. 3 full-length soccer fields, 2 restaurants, office space. I mean, I don't know if anybody has ever gone out there to see it. If not, you should. It's an amazing building, and it's going to be very exciting July 21st.
Sounds good, Jack. Well, we kind of run through that first 10-minute segment there. We'll be back, and we'll be talking a little bit about the summary of the election last night in Hamilton County. So we'll be right back.
You know, when Margaret and I decided to sell the old estate here, we had only one choice in signage: Logan Street signs and banners. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore, but rather located on 10th Street on the south side of Noblesville. Well, we sold the old beauty, and we were able to buy this wonderful estate. And we had so much money left over, I was able to buy this beautiful 1968 Eldorado Cadillac for Margaret. Only 472,000 miles. Margaret loves it because it's got those big seats and that heavy-duty suspension to support her svelte frame. Next time you're looking for signs or banners, call old Jim at Logan Street Signs and Banners, 773-7200. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore.
Well, welcome back. I'm Perry Williams, and Jack Russell's along with me here today, and we're chatting a little bit about this segment. We talked all about Westfield, the first station there, and Jack, no doubt there's a lot of things going on in Westfield, and people in Westfield and people in Hamilton County can't say there's nothing to do.
Exactly.
Because there are plenty of activities to do for all ages, and so I think that's great, and I appreciate that. Hopefully once a month you can come on and we can do a show about Westfield and let the people know, because here in June, July, August, September, it's going to be a madhouse.
Yeah.
So,
oh, absolutely.
Some of the numbers that you guys are drawing. But let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about the election. You know, the one thing about it is, Jack, that I thought was very, very interesting was the early voting.
Oh, yeah.
Which in 2008 we had 5,302 early voters and absentee voters. In 2012 we had 4,008, and then this year we had 11,682. So we pretty well knew that the stage was set, that this was going to be a huge crowd to vote, and it certainly was yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Outside of a few glitches at the end of about 6 precincts, everything went pretty smooth, and all the information was in by about 9 or 9:30.
Yep.
Now it took a little bit of about an hour and a half for the other 6, but we worked through that and everything, and mostly had the numbers right around 10:30. But one of the good things about it, 103,684 voted.
That's great.
That's a huge number, and we've been talking about for the last few years how voter turnout with the election and everything, presidential election, 47%
They
voted.
can't beat that.
So that's a pretty good number, and that 103,684 is the most voters we've ever had in Hamilton County. So hats off to the election board and the clerk's office and the candidates for doing an outstanding job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about the Republican primary on the presidential side. Most people know that Hamilton County probably has the largest population of Republicans anywhere in the state, maybe anywhere in the world for a county. But let's talk a little bit about the numbers.
Yeah, well, for president, we had 46% with Donald Trump, 39% Ted Cruz, and Kasich at 13%.
Which was actually, if I remember right, on the statewide, it was a much closer battle here between Cruz and Trump than it was for the entire state.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting number there that happened. And, you know, the one thing that I think caught us all by surprise was I think Cruz realized after last night's election that he needed to stop campaigning because he needed to face reality that he probably can't beat Donald Trump.
Yeah, and then along with John Kasich this evening, he's going to be suspending his campaign as well.
Yeah, so it's kind of amazing. I think the next thing that'll be exciting is to finish this out, and then we'll have the Republican convention.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of a shock on the Democrat side as far as the presidential race too was that Bernie Sanders beat Hillary Clinton. In fact, 4 years ago or 8 years ago. Hillary Clinton beat Obama in the state of Indiana. Right. So,
well, I don't know if you saw downtown on the Circle. They had a Bernie Sanders rally, and
he had huge numbers.
It was filled. I mean, just the whole circle was filled, and so, it was interesting to see that one as well.
You know, the one thing about it is they said this week that Bernie Sanders rallies that he had was larger than the Cruz's and and the Trump people rally. So that's kind of interesting. So that's an interesting dynamic there. Of course, Hillary's way out in front. It's going to be tough for Bernie to catch her, but you never know when it comes to politics. And we found that out in a few races last night.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the U.S. Congress 5, which the incumbent Susan Brooks came out on top.
Yeah, Susan Brooks winning the primary with 68% of the votes. Mike Campbell with 13%, and then Stephen McKenzie with 19%.
You know, the one thing about here, and I think you've noticed just like me, McKenzie put out a lot of signs. Now, I know signs don't win elections,
right?
Especially when signs are put in the right of way. But that was a very interesting. He had a lot of, in fact, probably in this area. I don't know what it was in Westfield, but in this area, we probably had more McKenzie signs than we did Susan Brooks.
Oh yeah, and I think Susan Brooks' thought was, instead of putting those signs out, I'm just going to send mail pieces and knock on doors.
Yeah, that's sometimes how people sometimes forget that you don't win elections by putting out signs.
Right.
It looked like some people were trying to put out signs for every vote or something.
Well, when you turn a corner on whether you're in Noblesville, Westfield, Fishers, and you've got 40 different candidates, that just looks like
crap.
I'll
say it, crap.
There's a heck of a garage sale going on somewhere. So
and let's talk a little bit about the state Senate seat. Luke Henley hadn't had an opponent for a long time. This is he's been here for I think the next station will be 25 years for Luke. He won big over
Scott Willis.
Scott Willis, which was virtually unknown coming in the race.
Yeah, and with Kinley was 61%. With almost 20,000 votes, and then with Scott Willis at 13,000 votes with 39%.
I will have to say, of course, Scott worked very hard because he had to. He was unknown, but and had limited funds. But I will have to say, Luke Kinley worked very, very hard. I mean, he did not take this race for granted. I mean, he was out shaking hands in areas in Westfield and Carmel. I mean, Noblesville is his stronghold, but he was out there shaking hands with people in Carmel and Westfield. And, when you look at the number of precinct numbers, breakdowns and stuff, one of the things that probably won that for Luke was over in that Westfield Carmel area. He didn't win them all, but he was very, very close in all of them. And he pretty well knew that coming in because he knew he would handle him pretty easily in Noblesville, being a Noblesville guy and his family grocery store, the name recognition for years here in Noblesville, that he would do very well over here.
Yeah. Well, another one we got here, we can talk about state reps. District 24, which is Donna Shibley and Greg Fettig. Donna Shibley winning 54% to 46%. I think it was pretty close the entire evening until about the end when that percentage kind of spaced out there.
But there again, that was a pretty close race.
Course, 54.
Of course, Donna was appointed to that seat, right?
Correct.
But that was a very, very good race there.
Yeah, and then we've got State Rep District 39 with Jerry Torr, which was even closer, 53% over Tom Linkmeyer at 47%. So another close State Rep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very close. And then we get into our county commissioners, judge, and county council. For District 3 was Mark Hairbrandt versus Bill Smythe, and Mark winning 57% to 43%.
There was a lot of controversy there throughout that campaign. There was a lot of negative flyers, a lot of negative social media. I mean, it is what it is, and it's over. I think that Mark will do very, very well. The first 3.5 years he's been in office here, and he's another one that was appointed.
Okay, correct, yeah.
And it's kind of a thing I want to talk about too is precinct committeemen.
Yeah.
Okay, we have learned over the last year of the cabal that we've had in the Republican Party in Hamilton County about precinct committeemen.
Right.
But I think there was a real resurgence of people interested in becoming a precinct committeeman this time. And even in the vote, I would say even though establishments won their own races, when they ran for precinct committeemen,
they didn't. Right.
And it was, so I think it's kind of showing that the people recognize there was a problem and they're going to fix it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think of a precinct committeeman as someone that just helps at a polling place. And when everything in the party started to come about, I think a lot of people said, wow, I didn't know you voted on things, and I didn't know you did this and that. And so I think that's why a lot of these races, at least for precinct committeemen, were contested with 2 to 5 people.
Yeah, because like you said, that precinct committeeman job is very, very important because if somebody steps down, like with Mark Hairbrandt, when Doug Carter got the opportunity to hold the highest office in the state for police,
right,
he became the superintendent. Well, he has to give up that seat,
right,
and that was huge. And so Mark got that position, and it was elected by the precinct committeeman.
Right, absolutely.
So that's a huge. The judge race, I think probably if you talk to people around Noblesville, they'll probably say that was a very big surprise to them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. John Brown winning over David Najjar, 51% to 49%. And when you look at the precincts, John Brown winning 138 of the precincts, and David Najjar winning 79 of the precincts. But still, very, very close race. I don't think we actually knew who won until that very when those last six decided to put their, brought their votes in.
Yeah, because I think the situation there was, I thought that, many people favored David Najjar, but I think people forgot that John Brown was very involved in youth activities for many years around Noblesville, and you can't go to a ballpark or a soccer field that he doesn't have a sign out there,
Right.
John Brown, attorney at law.
Right.
So, and of course the name John Brown is as American as you can possibly get. Maybe
Exactly.
Smith would be a little
There you
bit
go.
different, but
Well, I think
Brown, and so
Yeah, and I think they actually, we talked about the first one kind of being a little bit more controversial, but two of them, whether they're at polling places or at events and stuff, seemed like two guys that knew each other pretty well, and
they were very professional.
Absolutely. And so now we've got the county council, and so you pick three. And those would be Rick McKinney at 25%, Jeff Hearn at 23%, Brad Beaver at 21%, and then George Keel at 20%, and Bill Dennis at 11%.
Yeah, and there was that's another race that was very,
Very
very
close.
controversial, and then there was an issue in these last 3 weeks of one of the council members accusing the other one of removing their sign. So. In fact, there's a special prosecutor that has been hired to handle that case, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Longtime police chief in Fishers, George Kale. I think some people were surprised he didn't win.
Yeah, and when you look at the precincts that each of them won, Rick McKinney winning 120 precincts, but you look at Jeff Hearn, he only won 27 compared to George's 33. But when you look at those types of precincts he won, or even if McKinney won, how close they actually were. So if McKinney got 100, Jeff may have gotten 98 of those. But of course, Fishers being their stronger areas for Jeff and George.
What was your take on precinct committeemen? Because there's some changes there, and changes that probably didn't surprise people. I mean, people who were part of what they called the establishment, that had never run for election but had been appointed.
Yeah.
There were some high-ranking officials in Hamilton County that got beat as precinct committeemen.
Yeah, and I think one of the things is I think people are passionate, and they when they saw that was a way that they could get involved. I think that just, that really brings it all to the forefront. It doesn't matter who you are, as long as you're passionate about something. If you want something that bad, you go get it. And I think people, if you were running for a high office and precinct committeeman, and you're running against somebody who really wants to be at precinct committeeman, those are where you saw those upsets.
Yes, I think so too. Very interesting race. Great conversation, Jack. I thought it was kind of interesting, and you and I sitting there last night and watching this all unfold, and then today having the opportunity to really kind of absorb what went on.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you being on Hamilton County Newsmakers, and like I said, you have an open invitation every month to come back and talk about what's going on at Westfield, and keep people informed, because there's some great things going on in Westfield.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on the show.
All right, so this is Perry Williams along with Jack Russell. I'll see you next week on Hamilton County Newsmakers.